Are we doing the power one?
We could do that near the end, I guess, but people would be more anxious for the.
Okay.
That's an interest story. So.
Yep. All right, that's fine. All right. Well, welcome everybody to Talking Niagara. It is Friday the 20th of March. Yep, there we go. So we got 1.5 more weeks of March after this. There we go. Welcome everybody, and welcome Mike Cushman. Good morning, Mike. We always love to have you with us, right? Okay, and
I'd just like to remind everybody at 10:46 today, 10:46 a.m. is the equinox.
Right? Really?
That is when winter ends. And we have a problem though. We have Mother Nature, right? Yeah. Mother Nature doesn't always get the news, or wants to ignore the news, or just wants to play with us and dump some snow on it.
Let me correct you, Dave. We have a problem. Mother Nature determines when winter ends. Humans want to glorify it into a particular time because the equinox happens at a particular time. Sorry, humans are wrong. Mother Nature's right.
Well, I tell you what, we're men. We can't do anything about this. We can't rough up Mother Nature. It's just against the rules. But we have lady listeners out there. So I advise the lady listeners, if Mother Nature keeps doing her nasty winter stuff after the equinox, I suggest that all the lady listeners go find the bitch and lynch the bitch.
Oh, I suggest though that all our lady listeners actually cuddle up with Mother Nature and enjoy the rest of winter, because it's not yet over.
Well, they always stick together, don't they?
Well, I will be on their side, right? And
yes,
okay,
Mother Nature definitely is the boss, and you cannot do anything about it. She's the boss, and but she will relent soon enough. She'll send some sweet, I don't know, Lady Spring or something they call her. The spring is the daughter of summer. She sets
Gary says never trust a rodent.
Yeah. Well, I think that the problem is, you just stick with the weatherman. You know you're not going to be able to believe them anyway, right? So I don't know why everyone thinks you're going to be able to believe a rodent over a weatherman, weather person, because they lie all the time too. So,
well, they got a worse batting average than the best baseball players.
Yeah, what a job, man! I really should have thought of that. You know, you could be
right.
You could be a meteorologist
3/4 of the time, and everybody still believes you. Great, fantastic job. Yeah.
Well, all you got to do is add that 10% thing. Oh, it's going to be a beautiful day. There's a 10% chance of rain. If you say that, right, and there's a hurricane that day, you say, well, it did say it was going to be a 10% chance of rain.
Yeah. Here's the question though: how many weather women do we believe?
Pardon me, weather women?
How many weather women do we believe? You know, the women that tell the weather on the news.
Well, all I know is that if you're married to one, it's just yes, dear. Yes, dear. It's a beautiful day. You're looking outside and it's raining. Yes, dear. It's beautiful. Because if you don't agree with them, you'll be mad.
Whoa. Okay, I think it's time to move on to something real.
Oh yeah, I'm getting myself in trouble all the time here.
Right. Longest ballot protest group is targeting the by-election in Terrebonne. And basically, this is a by-election caused because what happened is there was a majority of one that was won by the Liberals, and that the Elections Canada has sent out a number of mail-in ballots to people, and some electors were given an incorrect return address, which means that their ballots were never counted. So the Supreme Court of Canada invalidated the election result for that riding, and and declared the seat vacant. And Mark Carney called a by-election on it for April 13th, the same day as the voters will go to the poll in Toronto University, Rosedale, and Scarborough Southwest. So Tatiana Auguste and Sinclair Desange, along with Conservative candidate Adrienne Childs, will be running a rematch that could decide whether the Liberals have a majority government. However, the longest ballot committee has decided they're running candidates.
Yeah, I don't know. Seriously, I don't know how that's good. They're going to have about a meter long or 2 meter long list of entrants for the election. They got to stop messing around with that. They're interfering with. Our democracy is not perfect, but they're interfering with it. Yeah. Now here you have a situation where you've had mail-in ballots and they come back. This is the real issue with mail-in ballots. I've worked at the election polls for the province and for the federal elections, and all that hoofra you hear down south about mail-in ballots and and all this business about people manipulating votes and all that. That's pretty much untrue. People who are here illegally stay away from the election ballots, because if they're going to get discovered, that's where they're going to be discovered, at the polls. So they don't want to. They simply will not come out to vote, even if they think they could. In the United States right now, they found out that they've only had, every time they investigate it, they find a small number of people voting illegally. Most of the time, it's because they're either in the wrong polling station or they think they have the right to vote, and it's like 1,000 or 800 or something like that through a whole election.
Yeah, probably
not a whole lot. There's not a whole lot.
Yeah, and probably those people who have applied for citizenship, whose citizenship is on the way, and probably the citizenship documents arrive 3 or 4 days after the ballot's over or something like that. They've assumed the citizenship is done, and they made a mistake.
I think it's some people are just a little thick, and they think that they misinterpret. They got a green card, so they got to go vote or something like that.
Yeah. So there's that possibility. Yeah.
Well, I know I worked the polls, and there's some there are some people who definitely need a brain transplant, but they do come to vote, so I appreciate that. And you got people who don't know how to vote, so they spoil their first ballot, and then they bring it back to you. I don't know if I did this right, and they'll check it off 3 or 4. They think it's a municipal election type thing where they can pick off more than one. And then you give them another ballot. You're allowed to have another ballot, and then you give them complete instructions. Look, just make a mark where you want it, this and that. Bring it back to me, and then you got to make it on a list. A spoiled ballot, blah blah blah. Then you take that spoiled ballot and you put it in a separate place, so that when you count how many ballots you have left and how many people have voted, how many spoiled ballots, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we get it. All right. So basically the spokesperson for Longest Ballot Committee is basically saying that ballots are a lot of fun, but most importantly, they create a platform which we use to point out that politicians shouldn't be in charge of their own election rules because it's obviously inappropriate and a conflict of interest. Not sure I agree.
Well, about this particular by-election coming up on the 13th, I think 2 of them are expected to be solid Liberal supported districts, right? One was Chrystia Freeland's old district, and the other one seems to be pretty solidly in place. I don't think they're going to have to run a lot of money at it. Remember, like Trudeau was losing Liberal seats, like Liberal solid seats near the end of his tenure. So that was something that told them, get rid of that guy. We got to get a new one. Yeah, I think we all knew that his life expectancy as a politician it was over. It took him a while to figure that out.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, you've got 10 years to achieve something. If you don't seem to achieve after 10 years, you'll find rapidly declining support.
It's kind of funny because after every politician leaves, they always seem to leave in a bunch of failure or things left undone.
Yeah.
But many years later, even their opponents come up and praise him. Look what happened when Brian Mulroney died. Everybody started stepping up and saying all the great things he did, including the Liberals and the NDP. These are the things that he did. But during the time that he was doing them, he got a lot of flack for it and told, oh, this is going to be the ruin of Canada, blah, blah, blah. And but after it was done and after time had elapsed, then people look back and say, you know what? He wasn't that bad of a leader after all. I think this time you need or sort of to look back, reflective and retrospectively before you can get a really good idea of the policies.
All right.
But anyway, that looks like the Carney government is going to get a majority, which is going, like, everything is odd here because the Carney government was not supposed to happen. Remember, Pierre Poilievre was supposed to win the last election, and he would have if Pierre Trudeau was still, or not Pierre, Justin Trudeau was still in power. But Justin Trudeau stepped down, and you got quite a dynamic leader in a practical businessman type leader, more of a conservative, more of a centrist than anything. He comes into play. That threw a wrench in the monkey works. Like seriously, that changed history a bit. And now we expected to have an election within 18 months of the election because Carney did not get a majority. But now he's going to get one, and we're not going to get that in between election now. He'll get the 4 years. All he needs is one of those 3 seats to get the majority. Am I right about that?
No, he needs if he wins all 3, he gets 173. If he wins 2 of them, he's at 172.
Well, 172 is all you need, eh?
Yeah.
So he needs 2 out of 3.
At least 2 out of 3, yeah. And the interesting thing is about Terrebonne is that these 3 leading candidates from PC, Liberal, and Conservative, Auguste is an A, so he's going to be fairly early in the list. That's the Liberal candidate. Desange is going to be fairly early in the list. That's the PC candidate, as is Charles, who's the Conservative candidate.
How many seats
those names are going to form fairly early, So they'll be on the first page most likely.
Yeah, he needs 2 more. As I just confirmed it. So he's got 170 now. He needs 172.
Yeah,
that's the threshold for the majority.
Yeah.
So he needs at least 2 out of 3, and that seems to be assured. That the Terrebonne one is the one that is going to be the difficult one.
Well, and we might not hear the result. We might not hear the result for a week afterwards, given how close it was at the last election.
Yeah, and especially the super long list of candidates too will slow things down.
Absolutely, it will. All right, so moving on from that. Okay, so moving back again to this story about Mein Kampf. Basically, although Bob Gale asserted that Mein Kampf was actually available widely in libraries, it turns out they've done a review of the Niagara area, and there aren't that many copies available.
Well, there's 5. There's 5 different libraries that hold a copy.
Yeah.
That's a little misleading when you first look at it, because the Niagara Falls Public Library had a copy. I know I got a copy out of the Niagara Falls Public Library many years ago, like when I was in high school.
They probably sold it.
Yeah. Now, they said that they had a copy in 2008 in Niagara Falls, and that was to replace one that got stolen, right? That didn't get returned. And they said here that controversial books like this often get now are not returned. People steal them, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they had in 2008, and it was so they bought one in 2008, put it on the shelves, and it got stolen last year, late last year, within less than a year ago.
But the public libraries in Port Coburn, Beamsville, Vineland, and Wainfleet have copies. Now, if you went into the Niagara Falls Public Library and you asked any branch and you asked for a copy of it, they could order you a copy anyway, which would be available from one of those five public libraries that have it, or might come from Hamilton or Burlington or somewhere like that.
The Ford government stopped the interprovincial library loan program.
Okay, I've forgotten that. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Which was a bummer because I had a book coming just when he did that. And then the library had to phone me and say, we had it here, but we had to send it back. Oh, anyway, so thank you, Doug Ford, for messing with our
we can still get the ones in the Niagara system, can't we?
We can get them off the cloud because there's a public library system that you could actually get it out of the cloud. The library will instruct you how to get it out of the cloud, where you might be able to find it electronically.
Yeah,
you could buy it. You could buy it on any bookstore anyway. You can go to Amazon and get one. Yeah. Probably.
Yeah. But in all honesty, it shows you how long. My wife goes to the public library all the time. I tend not to have enough time to, I'm doing enough reading with all the reading I do on other books anyway. I've got so many business books, etc., that I'm reading through and working through, and law books, etc. I don't have time really to generally go out to the public library. So
no, I don't either because by this time I pretty much know everything anyway.
Know everything, Dave. Right. There are no copies because all the Niagara regional councillors have them. Thank you, Rick. Very, very nice. Love it. All
right. Because the councils have stolen them all.
Okay, love it. All right. So next question here is, what's going on this weekend?
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that's going on for people looking for things to do. The thing that caught my eye, of course, was the model train thing. I've seen a few setups of model trains for clubs that have model train clubs. It's quite fascinating. You see the detail that people put into their work, putting in model trains together and all that, and and people who get into it in a big way. I knew a guy.
Where's the model train thing happening?
As soon as I get the article up, I'll tell you. What did it do?
Because in the meantime, it says Friday fish fry today at Royal Canadian Legion branch 15 George Street, lower level. So Royal Canadian Legion branch 24 at 15 George Street, lower level.
Well, it does say on Sunday there's going to be the canal opening with the guy with the top hat, which has been the tradition since it was opened up. That in this case, Captain Edward Kemp is seen at the 2024 top hat. So anyway, this is a picture of him. The event marking the season opening. They usually put a guy with a top hat, sort of some local official, puts a top hat on, and they go through in the formal dress of that which was formal up to about 1950, and then it kind of vanished. Whether you're looking to squeeze the last drops of fun out of March break or just okay, so here we got local markets. It tells you about the local markets. Step into the sunshine of Ravine Vineland Estate Winery. That's good. Easter egg hunt for kids. There's the Model Railroad open house, and that's in Fenwick. The Fenwick Clubhouse. So just look it up online. I'll probably it doesn't give you an address there, but just tells you it's in Fenwick Clubhouse. It's open to everyone. The open house features tiny locomotives traveling along 25 by 30 foot HO model train layout. So there's a lot of people interested in that, believe it or not. So you might, I was always fascinated to see the kind of work that people do. I knew it, one of the guys in my Kiwanis club, he's moved to a different city now, but he had a model train set up.
Yeah,
he was really good at it.
It's fascinating. Okay, so that you buy the trains, you can get the trains at a store. Probably less of them today than there used to be when I was a kid. But the most fascinating about them is not
Maple Street,
the
1141 Maple Street.
Okay.
Fenwick.
Yeah. Okay. So what's fascinating about them is not so much the trains, but actually the landscapes that the builders make.
Well, yeah, that's all part of it. So landscape, trains, and
the landscape. But the landscaping has to, whilst you can buy things like trees, it's about all the layout and how you put it all together. There has been some fantastic, of these miniature train sets. Some of them have actually mimicked real life events, historical events.
There's a dodgeball contest too.
Yep. Public skating at the Gale Center.
Yeah. Port Cobra and the top hat ceremony, as I said before, when they begin to open up the
I've got an event for you, Dave. All right. I've got an event for you. It's been earmarked for Dave Wheeler, so you've got to get your boots on and go to this one. It's the Mad Science and Museum Fun. So it's a daily Mad Science and Museum Fun shows at the daily Niagara Falls Exchange and interactive activities available for Niagara Falls History Museum. There you go. Perfect for Dave. Pushing those buttons. I can see him doing it right now.
I think I'll probably get a phone call anyway. They'll say we have the science part, we just need the mad part. So could you come along?
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I said. It's perfect for you.
There's Elbows Up with Charlie Angus, support ongoing fight for Ukraine as Niagara Sunflower Festival for Ukrainian relief. Hosts his first speaker series, Elbows Up with Charlie Angus. Charlie Angus is a favorite on YouTube. And there's also agricultural events as well if you want to look around. Yeah. So, but there's that's something you can do on the weekend. Everyone is sometimes we forget the events that happen in and around us, and they're pretty interesting.
And don't forget also that things like Journey Behind the Falls, Niagara Parks Power Station, Clifton Hill, helicopter tours, Whirlpool Aero Car are all open this weekend.
Yeah. So anyway,
this is sort of weekend they should do a local discount.
I don't know. They should have a local.
I'm just saying discount. They should. I'm not saying they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll start a petition.
It's sort of weekend that I think we should do it. Encourage local people. Okay. All right. Moving on. Your brain remains active and adaptable and continuous to change beyond the age of 20. For some reason, people have got this idea that the brain is finished developing at the age of 20, and that's where you're most brainy, and you'll never develop again after that. But that's wrong, according to this article by Dr. Alicia Mattia, who's a neurologist. Dave?
Well, basically 20 now. I don't know where she's getting her stuff, but so the brain probably matures in size and all that by the time you're 20. They tell us really, though, it doesn't really mature until you're 26. At the age of 20, there's a lot of people think you shouldn't be voting until you're 26 because according to modern science, that is when your character is completely formed and your sense of reasoning is begins at its best and continues that way after. But this article is about how to keep your brain going. And of course, nowadays, because of our aging population, that's very, very, very good. But this is this is a hint to keep your brain healthy throughout your whole life.
Yeah.
And of course, stay away from drinking and smoking. That restricts the amount of blood that gets into the brain, that kind of thing. Those are the things you think of as pretty ordinary, you know.
So Dave, excuse me a moment while I drink.
Yeah.
No, just for the record, that is fruit juice, not anything alcoholic. But yeah, go on, Dave.
Yeah, so they think, okay, you got to have mentally stimulating things to do. No, reading is a good thing to do.
Yeah.
But one of the things you could really do is just keep company with other people. That's another thing that happens. That keep your memory going. Unfortunately, losing sight and hearing are one of the things that work against you. Work against your cognitive abilities. I don't think if you think of someone like Helen Keller, you gotta argue that, don't you? But she was born that way. So I'm thinking they mean here, as you lose your hearing and your eyesight over time, what they're saying here is there's less information added to the
I get you.
Because obviously your brain,
you take in stuff. You take in a lot of information through your ears, through your eyes, and for example, if you go blind, yes, you can listen to you can listen to an audio book, but it is not quite the same impact as seeing it.
Hobbies matter. Reading, learning a different language, playing music, tackling new technology, or other stimulating hobbies all count. That keeps your nougat going in a variety of different ways. And so you become more and more healthy mentally. But one of the things that untreated hearing loss and vision problems are linked to higher risk of dementia. There you go. So when people get old and naturally their vision and hearing starts to decline, that could be a contributing factor to dementia.
Well,
if you're born with it like me, then how would you know?
Well, one of the things about this, Dave, is you talk about vision and hearing. I had a hearing test about 3 years ago, and the guy, he said, just to put it this way, I had like almost 20/20 hearing. I had a little bit of difficulty in my right ear, and he suggested it was probably because of wax, but it was only minorly diminished, right? But again, one of the things I can't hear is...
Do I have to say the obvious? Do I have to say the obvious here? I am surprised there was anything in there anyway.
Oh. But again, you see, what he was saying is that I haven't got any problems in the hearing thing. Where I have problems is if you shout at me across a big room, I'm probably not going to hear it. You know, it blends in with everything else, and I'm not going to hear it.
Well, yeah. So do you know semaphore? Semaphore. I'll just do one of these. And
but again, with that is like, well, we should we all know sign language?
I'll just have to. If I see you from across the room, I'll phone you if I want to talk to you. How's that?
That would be much better if I got the phone on me. All right. But they're basically saying some of the things to keep your mind stimulated: lifelong learning, engaging hobbies. Believe it or not, you were talking about trains, miniature trains. That actually is one of those engaging hobbies, right? Playing musical instruments is another. Trying to learn new languages, painting, learning to do programming.
Well, I just got this vision of you being in a crowded room, just saying, "What? Pardon me? What? Excuse me? Pardon me."
Well, that was the thing, but you see, that never shows up in a hearing test because you're not here. Your hearing test isn't in a crowded room.
No, yeah, I know. I've got really bad tinnitus. At times, it screams in my ear. And anybody that's worked in the places I've worked, what really brought it on? I had tinnitus off and on, and then I got in a car accident. And after that car accident, man, it's just like it can be pretty deadly.
Yeah. Okay. Some other things they're saying is stay physically active, so connect to people socially. So have conversations with people that you have shared hobbies with. Volunteer in the community like you do. Have a nutritious diet. Eat brain food. Right.
I know there's a
So
dilemma there. What you want to socialize with people with the same interest in you? That might be you socialize with people that drink and smoke. Yeah.
well, yeah, but they didn't say anything about drinking and smoking.
Well, they did. Yeah, in the article it does say alcohol and tobacco are things that contribute to
Bad.
Yeah, because what it does is the smoking of
Again,
course restricts the blood flow to the brain.
yeah, but again, I've known some. You see, my grandmother drank Guinness every day, and she lived till 92. Right.
Well,
So I've known another old lady who smoked and drank every day, and she lived to 101.
there are exceptions. There are
Yeah.
extraordinary exceptions.
Yeah.
When they study fraternal twins that aren't identical, fraternal twins that drink and smoke. Let's say if they have fraternal twins that smoke, they can find radical differences on how smoking affects one or the other.
Yeah.
Came from the same parents, same background.
Yeah.
They're not identical, and yet they have different reactions to tobacco smoke. Some are
So Paul Lemire
some are largely unaffected or very little affected, and others are extremely.
Okay, here's one from Paul Lemire. Drinking makes you smart. It makes Bud wiser. I love it, Paul. Great joke. Thank you. Yeah, George Burns is one example of that, says Mike Cushman. Yes, of the smoking and drinking, and he's alive till 101. I think that was true of George Burns as well. Yes, absolutely. Right.
Yeah. Well, he smoked about 11 or 12 cigars a day. He said.
Yeah. Oh no, the lady I knew, I mainly knew her. I knew her originally because I worked with her, and I used to have this standing joke about how she went out. How she went out to work, and she was working well into her 70s, and had this standing joke about smoking will kill you, and how she lost time at work because she was smoking, right? I think she was 75 before when I knew her, right? And she was still going at 101 the last I knew, but I heard then sometime that she died about that sort of
There's a lot to do with genetics. So generally speaking, most people are affected adversely by smoking and too much drinking. However, there are some people with genetic tolerance that you hardly know they ever smoked. Like I think the guy that one time there was a guy who was the oldest person in Canada. I mean, his daughter was 90 something, and she took care of him, and he was 117 or something. I don't forget, and he had smoked most of his life. He's 117, but like I said before, the studies that they've done on fraternal twins recognize that things like tobacco have a very, very different effect on different people.
Yeah.
Some people are more.
I've got a comment for you. Rick says he's getting smarter, or are people getting stupid? Rick, I've got a message for you. Hey, you've been watching too much of the landlord and tenant board hearings. There are some daft people on those.
Unfortunately, we are our brothers and sisters keepers, even if they, not too bright. But, well, anyway, yeah. So I put it in there as a human interest story, just so that,
it's great. It's great. Okay, so.
I expect all of our listeners to immediately stop smoking and drinking.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, stop drinking and smoking, and and we'll love you. We'll love you going forward. All right. Yep. Well, it's okay. So let's move on. So missile debris has fallen on several areas in Israel. So there's been bombing against in Israel that's not reported in the Israeli press or the Western press. Come to that.
The Israeli press is very censorial. You can get into a lot of trouble if you report news that is not sanctioned by the Israeli government. They have extreme censorship. Well, we know they won't let any foreign journalist into Gaza, and haven't for the whole time that Gaza massacre has been going on. They haven't allowed any foreign journalist in there at all. One or two may have snuck in there, and they killed the 240 sort of journalists that were there, you know. And they made sure that they kill them, the ones that live there, and take pictures of what's going on and send them out. That's a tactic they started to do back in the Yugoslavian wars. The journalists would get killed once in a while by accident, but they found that they were being targeted by different factions in that conflict. If they felt that they were being poorly reported upon, they would then start taking out sniping at the journalists, killing them. And so that's what Israel has done in the West Bank and in Gaza, but and also restricted. So what you got in Israel now, you might have a Fox sort of reporter, but they're pretty much guided to say what they have to do. The same thing, in this particular case, But
so
we do know that Israel is getting beat up a lot more than they are admitting to.
Yeah, and
I wonder how many deaths there are. There's probably about 20 deaths officially in Israel right now. Yeah, but there's about a minimum of 1,400 civilians that have been killed in Iran, though, because of the huge amounts of bombing.
These Iranian missiles have done damage to Ben Gurion Airport, which is a private airport near Tel Aviv, and there's been reports of damage within central Tel Aviv where cars have been blown up. Not that the Iranians were targeting cars, but they just happened to have ended up where these missiles have hit.
Now, this censorship that I've talked about, they have the journalists have agreed to the censorship. BBC, CNN, I think Reuters and Fox have all agreed to oblige by Israel's censorship.
Yeah,
they're going to get in trouble if they go out on their own and report what they want to report. So we don't know how badly the poor people of Israel are getting it, because the press or the government won't allow it.
Yeah,
and but we do know that we're at least 1,400 people have been killed. That there's probably much more than that in Iran. But of the innocent people, just the civilians, a minimum of 1,400 have been killed. It's probably more like, when I looked it up, it was probably more like 3,100. But all these things have to be confirmed in the fog of war. And let's face it, Iran's getting them really pummeled. 16,000 hits now or something like that. It's just incredible.
Okay, moving on.
Also a fragment of a missile hit Haifa's oil storage, which may be part of the plan, Iran's plan. Israel has oil storage in the port of Haifa. They feel that a shrapnel got into there and it started a fire, so it doesn't look like it's out of control. But there is a pipeline that comes from Azerbaijan through Turkey, I think, and goes, and that's the pipeline, and I think it ends up in a port in Turkey, and that's where Israel gets most of its oil. 45% of it, I think, comes from the Azerbaijan fields,
Yeah, it comes
and Iran has started to attack. I don't think this is a good idea, though. Started to attack targets in Azerbaijan that are related to that oil, or no, their airport. What they want to do is stifle air travel through the area, and then somehow that's going to help them work against the oil transit. They might attack that pipeline too. It's getting messier every day.
Okay. Now, next piece of news is 90 ships managed to get through the Strait of Hormuz by shadowing essentially Iranian ships that were exporting millions of Iranian barrels of oil. And if they're shadowing those Iranian ships, at least they fairly sure that they're not going to get hit.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Even Scott Bessent, when asked about this, so how come all these Iranian ships are going through? And now they're ghosting themselves as well, right? So they're turning off the transmissions. But they are Iranian ships or Chinese ships going through. And when Scott Bessent spoke about this, is why are you letting them go through? They're not letting other people. So why are you letting them through? And he says the world's got to have oil, and if we don't let a certain amount of oil in to the world economy, things are going to get really bad, even in the United States. And that's why they lifted the sanction on Russian oil, to make it more available for people to keep the world economy going. So the irony of all this is just like the irony of the Ukraine war. Remember when the Ukraine war started and the Europeans still needed to buy their gas from Russia for 2 years? So they were feeding Russia the money that they were using in the war against Ukraine.
Yeah.
And now they're leaving the Straits of Hormuz open for Iranian oil so they can get money to keep the war effort going, but they have to get the oil out there or the world economy is going to get, it's confusing. And then, and of course, Russia being desanctified right now, where they allowing Russian oil to be sold, that fuels Russia's war against Ukraine. You know the war that Donnie Bone Spurs there was going to fix in one day. Remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
I guess he just forgot.
All right, so there's basically a whole bundle, and obviously 90 ships leaving the Strait of Hormuz. It's going to be weeks, if not months, before they reach wherever they're going to.
They got to bring this war to a conclusion. Trump needs an off ramp, some kind of face-saving story. He says he's won. In a sense, they can say that because he's degraded Iran's ability in every way, missiles, whatever. For some reason, they don't believe now that they obliterated Iran's nuclear facilities. That's wrong. Apparently, according to the CIA reports, even Tulsi Gabbard's trying to guard against what she says in Congress. It appears that the CIA and other intelligence said that they just didn't have what it took to start things up again. Nobody really knows what happens to the refined uranium they have. That's at 60%. It could be buried. People think they might have shipped it off to Russia. There's all kinds of different things. I don't know how they could have lost track of that much uranium, but they did.
Yeah.
And Iran did not have the ability to restart that program because it's expensive. All the centrifuges are destroyed. All the equipment they had is destroyed. Now the only thing they might have is that enriched uranium, but they're still going to have to distill it down to 90% if they want to bomb.
Yeah.
And let's make this clear too. Who's got a bomb in the area? This Pakistan's got a bomb. Yeah. It's on the border of Tehran, of Iran, and they're not exactly the best of friends, but Pakistan's got a bomb. So when Iran looks at Pakistan and says they got a bomb and we don't, maybe we better get one. Who else? Israel. Israel's the only other one with a bomb.
Well, India. In India.
Yeah, too, but they're a little bit farther away.
Yeah.
And they're not antagonists.
But also, don't forget that Russia has a bomb, and they're only a hop, skip, and away.
But I'm talking about in the neighborhood. I'm talking about
they're in the neighborhood. They're only a small jump away.
Yeah, but they're not likely going to use the bomb against Iran. They're Iran. They're buddies, right?
Yeah.
Who's going to use the bomb against them? Maybe Pakistan, maybe Israel, right?
Yeah.
So they look in their neighborhood. When Iran looks in their neighborhood, they've got nothing but enemies all around.
Yeah.
So they right now you're giving them incentive to get the bomb, but I don't know. They need an off ramp out of here pretty quick. Trump can rightly say that he's diminished the abilities of Iran incredibly, and so for some reason they don't believe they obliterated the. I think that's Netanyahu nagging him.
I think
Netanyahu is pretty smart. He's really the one that's running the show.
Yeah,
because Israel hit those gas fields that the Americans did not want hit, and then Trump had to tell them the other day, "Don't do that again, you idiot."
Yeah.
And before that, they hit the oil field, the oil reserves in Iran, and he said to them, "What are you doing? You're not supposed to do that." Even that little worm, Lindsey Graham, said, "Hey, you're not supposed to do that, Israel."
All right, moving on.
Anyway, they got to end the thing. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on. Malaysia is basically the first country to cancel UF tariff agreement. Basically, they set up yours, US. They've withdrawn from its trade agreement with the US and become the first country to exit Washington's reciprocal tariff strategy.
Yes, well, I don't think they set up yours, right? I don't think they said they didn't appreciate.
That was me.
Yeah, they didn't appreciate how Trump made the deal. Anyway, Trump threatened them with this and threatened them with that, and they finally came to I think it was 19% or something, but he was going to drop 40%, then 30%, and then finally got down to 19%. And Malaysia was pretty relieved that their goods going into the United States would only be boosted up 19% on tariffs. So the average American would have to pay, say you bought coffee beans from Malaysia. Malaysia has special coffee beans or whatever I think they have. So say you bought that and you used to buy them for $1. All right, now you got to buy it from $1.19, But now, because the Supreme Court has found out that the IEEPA tariffs were pretty much illegal, they have to go to the 10% for now, worldwide tariff. So that puts even if they can add another 5%, which he wants to do, so to make it 15%, it's still a better deal than the 19% or whatever they got from Trump the first time. So they just said, okay, we're going to drop this deal and we're going to do what the Supreme Court says, and whatever tariff that is legal, we'll abide by that. But the tariff that Trump imposed on them was not legal. Now you find a problem here going on because some countries got a pretty good deal that would be better than what is going to come. So they're saying the deal's a deal, so we got to stick with that deal. But Malaysia says, well, no, a deal's not a deal. We're going to go with the better of two evils. So
yeah. And that 10% tariff under Section 122 of the Act is what, of course, they're driving to. Yeah,
it's very interesting. The tariffs bring a lot of money in, but they don't bring an enormous amount of money in. They haven't been able to overcome what has been lost in income tax yet. So we'll see.
Yeah. And you think about this for a moment, that European Union, Japan, South Korea, Vietnam, Indonesia, Bangladesh, India have had 15 to 20% tariffs according to agreements. So are they going to follow Malaysia?
You're going to have to be careful, very, very careful. You know how vindictive Trump is. I mean, you put a silly ad on TV, put an ad on TV about Reagan, and he freaks out and puts 10%. He makes the Americans pay 10% more for everything that comes from Canada. So you gotta make sure that the vindictive one doesn't feel insulted, because he'll try to put something on you. So you got to do this. You got to walk like on broken glass, basically. You got to be very, very easy does it. You can't insult them or have them perceived to be insulted, or he'll do something like just throw a tariff at you from somewhere. He's going to revive some tariff rules that were in place back in 1930 that never were enacted. Those could be what's coming up. The 10% that he's going to impose on, I think it's only good for 150 days or something like that, a half a year.
Yeah.
And then it has to be reviewed by Congress. And right now, there's going to be difficulty when this comes up, because you're going to get pretty close to midterms and so on.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So that basically potentially could change everything with the midterms. All right. Moving on, the early history of hydroelectric power in Niagara Falls.
Yeah, ever since I went the tour with Gary into the power plant there, I got a little more interest. I saw this article here and I thought this would be pretty good. What is surprising to me, that there's a conservative politician way back in the early 1900s that wanted public access to the facilities of electricity, and set up almost like a socialist type of system to make sure that everyone got a fair share of getting the power instead of only the rich.
I don't know if it was socialist type thing. I just think the difference between Ontario and the US is that the Ontario wanted it kind of government run, power because everybody needed it.
Well, the difference, I didn't read up on how that works in the US, but in Ontario, they Moffat was the first guy. I think what he wanted to do is wanted to secure the rights to the land, secure the rights to the power, allow private industry to build it, but the control was with the government, Ontario government, kind of like the casino, basically. Let the private companies come in and build and get the profits, but we control where the power goes, who gets it, and that's help moderate the price.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that was to assure, because the big anxiety at the time was electricity was brand new, and everybody knew it was going to be a real life changer for everyone. But at the time, it looked like the rich were only the rich were going to get it. Yeah. And it would be very expensive, and the ordinary person would be shut out, particularly the poor person. So I have to take my hat off to the politicians of the day, both liberal and conservative. They did have the needs of the average person foremost in their mind. They took on this responsibility very well, and they went ahead and started the projects that created the power and distributed it to Ontarians as equitably as possible. I was pretty happy to think that people had that kind of character back then.
They weren't stopping a profit being made from the sale of electricity. What the government of Ontario were doing was basically making sure it was available to everybody, first of all, but also making sure that there was the competition was managed fairly.
Yeah, control. The government had the ultimate control over it, because if you let capitalism go unrestrained, it will try to monopolize things, and it will try to make as much money, force the consumer to pay the top dollar if they can. If the government steps in and says, no, this is an essential service, and you can't charge this much for it for extra profit, because the guy in the corner there, that guy, the carpenter who lives in that corner over there, he's going to need power just as much as the guy in the mansion.
Yeah.
So you got to make it affordable to them. So there was this. Everybody seemed to know this was a huge game changer. Tesla come along and he made a AC generator. All of a sudden, everyone knows. Wow, this is a quantum leap in people's lives. It's hard to believe. It's hard to think of life without electricity at all now.
Yeah. We know it now as the Adam Beck Power Station, but the Queenston Chippewa Power Station, where construction began in 1917, and that went on to, I think, 1917 to 1925. And this is the basis of the power that is, in use today. The power generation that's in use today, it's been modernized today. A lot of the buildings that exist down the hill today in 1925 no longer exist, but it's a fascinating history.
Well, yeah, and I'm trying to find the damn article now. But yeah, so the history of it's really good. Like if you go for that tour and you listen to the every little station has a something they could tell you a few things. There were riots at the time. There were the guys went on strike. There was fights. There was all kinds of things going on when they were building that. The type of manpower they needed, the kind of engineering was astonishing.
Yeah,
so that's why I put it here. I know. Jesus. I can't find where I put it. Anyway, blast it.
Well, the other thing about this is that the Niagara River and Niagara Falls use of power goes back to 1700. That's not to say that in the 1700s we had electricity, but they were using the river power to generate electric style motors in places like for industry along in the Niagara area, places like Silvertown.
Well, I have a friend that's an engineer, and he's toured a lot of the old stations that were still operating about 20, 30 years ago. And he says in some of the real old ones, they didn't know which part of the generator should be the stator and which should be the rotor. So what normally is the stator now sometimes was the rotor in some of the old ones. And sometimes the configuration of the rotor and stator were odd. You'd have a sort of almost a bell-shaped thing where what we normally think of the stator was the thing that was rotating around what we normally think is the rotor nowadays. So they had to go by trial and error. Now they could make that work, but the way that's configured these days is the most efficient way to do it. But they didn't know quite how to do it then. They didn't know where the electrons were going to go.
Yeah,
they made a guess. The Brits guessed that the electrons went towards the positive. Americans said the positive went towards the negative. It turns out the Brits were a little bit more right about that one, but it didn't really matter. And it says when Nicholas died in 1943, his papers and technical belongings were seized by the U.S. government and were reviewed by Dr. John G. Trump. I would like to it'd be interesting. That's interesting. Yeah. The same Trump that was supposed to be Donnie Bonespur's uncle in Professor?
Possibly.
Anyway, I just put that in there and I can't even find the damned article. And there it is. Finally. It goes back a ways. So and the whole idea of it's a good article to read, and I'm sorry I couldn't speak to it better right now, but it's a very interesting article to read on how hydroelectricity developed, and we forget how angst driven this was in the early days. Who's going to get this power? Everybody knew it was going to be a massive game changer, and the worry was only the people with money were going to get it, and that would be even more prosperous.
By 1910, Adam Beck led a commission to expand power, and that would serve 104 municipalities across Ontario.
It says right here, it says, despite the role of private companies played in building the hydro station, Ontario municipalities feared the incentive for profit would lead to preferential allocation of electricity and unfair rates.
Yeah.
So this led the government to form committees and advocate for public ownership of hydroelectricity, even the conservative ones. As a matter of fact, what was I think it was conservative James Whitney who won the 1905 election. He gave more support to the public hydro movement. Public. Get that? Public socialism, public. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So even smart conservatives know when to go socialist.
Again with this is that eventually, even if power had been supplied to the elite first of all, it would have eventually been available to everybody.
Well, that was the problem. Yeah, no, I don't. There was no assurance of that to the people of the time. There was no assurance of that. There was no assurance of that at all. That when the government stepped in, that was when they were more assured.
I was looking back in history and saying that was not, and that I agree that is not how the people would have seen it at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, it probably would be. It'd be like automobiles were only for the rich. And then along comes Ford, and he says, "I want an automobile for the average person."
Yeah, exactly.
And he made his money that way.
Automobiles may have been for the rich, but again, they trickle down because essentially now the rich person wants to buy the latest, greatest, brand newest automobile, and they sell off their old one.
Well, that's basically the average person can find a brand new vehicle that they can afford.
Yeah.
If they borrow the money and pay it off over the 5 years or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's the issue, although that's becoming harder and harder. But in the meantime, you could be like me and buy used cars all your life, which
Lee Monty says, imagine the expense of rewiring factories and that were already built, that were already built at the time in order to use electricity rather than the other means of power that they had been using.
My first house was built in 1913. It was all knob and tube. I had to have it all taken out. But when I went to change some of it myself, some was just left over. It was done so well, the soap was still on the wire. Like they would use soap to draw it through the knob and tube, the wire, and the soap was still on the cloth covered wire.
Well, houses as old as that, and I know we've got knob and tube wire. We've got the knob and tube cable runs still part of our house, because even though all the electricity, all the electrics have been modernized, some of the old runs are still there. All they've done is cut them off, replace them, and the old knob and tube runs are there. They're just not active.
Yes. There was lots of left over in my house too. As a matter of fact, they tore down one of the walls in my living room, and I found 2 live wires just hanging there and they were still connected.
Yeah. I didn't find any. I've never found any live wires, but I have found some. When you go over with a detector, before you actually do some changes, I found some interesting things where there was metal detected, where there wasn't actually any live current.
Well, these were live and they're hanging, and they obviously had been there for sconces, because it was on either side of the fireplace.
Yeah,
about this high, right? Just like stand up, walk forward about where a sconce would normally go. One on one side, one on the other side of the fireplace. So someone decided they didn't want those sconces anymore when they fixed the wall there, and just cut them, left the wires just dangle in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pretty surprised they were still alive. I had to find out where else they were connected to. way up in the attic, and then they came back down. But I mean, the whoever was the electrician back in those days knew what they were doing. This is 1913, so still pretty new stuff.
Yeah. Okay. All right. No gold. What was gold? I wasn't talking about gold, was I?
Dinnican. But anyway, it looks like we're near the end.
Yeah, we're done.
All right. And I will bring up Gaza again, as I do every time. I don't want it to get off the news. There were 72,000 people killed, probably double 270, or probably about 150,000 that were injured, and some of them very severely. And we do know many of the children were burnt, lost eyes, limbs. They'll never recover. And some of those children will never recover from the horrors they faced. Remember, most of Gaza were children. There were more children. There's more people 14 and under in Gaza during that war than there was. The very, very, very few of those people who were alive then were the ones that voted for Hamas. Only 44% anyway. So it was a Israel wanted to punish everybody. It was collective punishment in the worst way. And we see what they're like now, because you can see how they're slapping around Trump and dropping bombs where he doesn't want them to drop them, so on and so forth. So the sooner we get rid of Bibi Netanyahu, the better. Maybe we can start organizing things a little bit better over the Middle East.
And I don't know why, but we will see you Monday. I don't know why Rick thinks it's a long weekend holiday, because it isn't.
Maybe he's having one.
Maybe. Yeah. All right. So, Dave?
Okay. Without further ado, I bid you adieu. Pray for peace, everyone.